product provided by Nintendo. The World Ends With You was one of the most iconic experiences on the Nintendo DS. When it was released back in 2007, it astonished gamers with its unique story and gameplay that utilized the dual-screen system. Later on, it would be released on mobile devices and now on Nintendo Switch, titled The World Ends With You Final Remix. In modern-day Japan, you wake up in the middle of the Shibuya district. You play as Neku, a young introverted boy that shuts out the world around him with his headphones. Upon waking up, Neku notices a text message on his phone. It tells him that he only has a few minutes to complete the first part of the game or he'll be erased. With no recollection of his memories, Neku falls into a ghost state where he's partnered with another player of the game to destroy the noise. The noise is the social distortion in the world, and it's up to Neku and his partners to destroy it if they ever have any hope of being free of this game. Neku's journey throughout this game is captivating and filled with mystery. Its ominous dark undertones fueled my curiosity when I first played it on the DS. Playing it now on the Nintendo Switch, those feelings are still present with one of my personal favorite endings in any RPG. In a way, it almost reminds me of a pre-Persona 5 Persona 5, having so much style and charm present throughout the story. It's not just an engaging and riveting 25-hour story, but it's presented in a manner that's just so enchanting. Characters are so full of depth to the point where their individual dilemmas foster curiosity in me beyond the main story. Neku must open up himself to these people and do what he refused to do pretty much his entire life: make friends and relationships. It's a narrative that I think will resonate with a lot of gamers out there feeling like they're just in a slump. I know it did with me, at least, when I first played it at 12 years old. For those of you that already played it on either DS or mobile, there's a new chapter in this remix called A New Game that adds in a new character into the storyline. It adds a little bit of new replay value for longtime fans of the series in the form of new story content and a harder version of the noise. The World Ends With You Final Remix's gameplay is equally as unique as its story. To say the gameplay mechanics and combat of the series is unconventional would be a bit of an understatement. Everything is driven by these pins that you collect. These pins come in multiple variations that fuel your attacks and can even feel like a character on their own. Like the characters you play as, they too can be leveled up and modified to become more powerful. Depending on which brands are hot in Shibuya at the moment, the stats of your pins will have different attributes when leveling up. Collecting and organizing your pins to your liking, you can create your own little battle strategy for fighting off the noise. For example, some pins can activate physical attacks while others will be magic based. Depending on your control scheme, they'll also have a very different way of execution. On the Nintendo DS, The World Ends With You offered a unique gameplay experience that was due in part to how the game was controlled. You'd use the D-pad to control one partner while also using the touchscreen to control the other character. It was chaotic but fun and unique back then. Heck, it's still pretty unique now. With that being said, the control scheme obviously had to change for the Nintendo Switch port, and I think it kind of got it right. Playing in handheld mode, you're pushed to play with the touchscreen, using a handful of taps and swipes to control both characters on screen. While it's different than the DS version, I found it to be just as chaotic and entertaining in its own way. It's something you'll have to get used to for sure, and while it'll feel different to veteran players, I thought it was still a viable choice. On the other hand, when playing in dock or tabletop mode, you're going to use a single Joy-Con to play. Sadly, you won't be able to use a Pro Controller here. What that does in return though is create an opportunity for co-op play where each player controls a single character with one Joy-Con. It almost feels like a pseudo Wii remote as you try to use the Joy-Con's gyroscope to mimic the actions of a touchscreen. However, if you've ever played any game using the Joy-Con as a Wii remote, you'll notice that it's easy for the controller to desync. Overall, the controls felt more in line to the solo remix version of the series that was released back on Android and iOS when playing in handheld mode. Now when playing in dock mode or tabletop mode, the new Joy-Con controls can really be hit or miss depending on the gyroscope control's performance. Outside of running around Tokyo searching for noise and fighting it off, you'll come across boss battles that feel like the climax of each series of noise fights. They do feel a bit easier with this new controller scheme in comparison to the original DS version, but still provide some challenges. Ultimately, The World Ends With You Final Remix offers a unique battle system with both familiar and new ways to play. Neither option really feels entirely like the original DS version, but more in line with the mobile version. However, the Switch version offered its own unique take on the battle system despite not being as challenging as the D-pad plus touchscreen combo. I mentioned this a bit in the story section of this review. The World Ends With You feels like Persona 5 before Persona 5. There's so much polish in the presentation that even when it's still just a 2D animated game, The World Ends With You's visuals can easily topple the graphical design of some modern 3D games. Character art just pops on screen whether it's in dialogue or just in a battle against the noise. The new HD visuals on Switch also make the art stand out more, giving the edges of character portraits some added crisp. The visuals are also much more saturated on this display that make the colors of the characters really shine. In terms of performance, I found the gameplay to run at a smooth 60 frames per second with really only minimal frame rate dips during big boss fights. It was hardly noticeable though, and really more of a nitpick than a gameplay quality negative.
Shut up! Stop talking. Just go the hell away.
I was pretty much in love with the music and audio design of The World Ends With You since I first played it. Its soundtrack is just so darn catchy, from the main theme song with rap lyrics over the guitar strings to the new remixes. The World Ends With You starts and ends strong because of its music selection. Best of all is that a lot of the tracks I grew up loving in this game either feature more instrumental layers or refined vocals for a crisper sounding song. If you prefer the non-remix versions of songs, you can also swap back to the original versions too. I never really expected to get better versions of the music in this game when it was first announced, but now having it in my hands, I'm really happy the extra effort was put in. Sadly, the extra attention to detail wasn't placed on the voice acting. The cast of the original game is still here as you would expect, but I would have loved to see some new voice acting done for some of the non-voice sections from the DS or mobile version. For the time being, you'll have to resort to Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance to hear anything new from Niku or Joshua. By the way, you should totally play that series, it's my favorite. The World Ends With You Final Remix is the perfect culmination of the series. It combines every version of the game so far, adding in new content both in terms of narrative and gameplay. The controls are going to throw off a few veteran players, but I found the new co-op option with the Joy-Con to be a great addition to the series. However, if you've played the mobile version before, you might enjoy playing the game in handheld mode for a more familiar, or just in general, more responsive experience. Personally, I found this new version on Switch to not only be the best way to dive into this RPG for the first time, but surprisingly a good trip for veterans too. Sure, the DS version still has some one-ups in terms of the combat system because of that D-pad and touchscreen, but the Switch version has its own better qualities too. Outside of some weird controls for the dock mode or some missing cool combo mechanics from the DS version, The World Ends With You Final Remix feels like the pinnacle version of the game. Starting off as a handheld game on the DS, it still feels best as a handheld game now on the Switch. If you've been eagerly waiting for a sequel to this RPG, let's just say the retreading might be worth diving into. I give The World Ends With You Final Remix a 9 out of 10. If you enjoyed my review, then be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share the video with your friends. It helps more people find out about my channel, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you all very much for watching, hope you guys have a great day, and keep on gaming.